My name is Bella. I'm 50 years old. I was born in New Jersey and raised in a strict Muslim home. My parents came from Pakistan, carrying with them not just their language and customs, a deep, unwavering devotion to Islam. In our family, Islam wasn't simply a set of beliefs. It was our entire identity, our heritage, the very air we breathed. It dictated how we dressed, how we spoke, how we thought, and how we interacted with the world. The testimonies you hear on this channel are presented exactly as they come to us, raw, personal, and unfiltered. They carry the voices of people who have walked through fire, who have struggled with faith, fear, doubt, and revelation. We share them with the hope that you too might see the hand of God in ways you never imagined. We ask that you listen with compassion, with an open heart, because these stories come from places of deep vulnerability. And as you listen, always measure everything by the Holy Bible and the teachings of Jesus Christ and his apostles. If these testimonies stir something in you, consider subscribing to this channel. It may seem like a small thing, but it allows us to keep bringing you these life-changing stories. I once went to Mecca, expecting to feel closer to Allah than ever before. But what I saw there, what I felt there, tore my beliefs apart. For 50 years, I had lived as a devoted Muslim woman. I wore my hijab every day without question. I fasted faithfully during Ramadan. I prayed 5 times a day, even when sick or exhausted, and I obeyed every Islamic teaching without hesitation. My life was shaped around devotion and duty. When I finally traveled to Saudi Arabia, the dream of almost every Muslim, I believed I was walking into the culmination of a lifetime of faithfulness. But instead of peace, I found a hollow silence. Instead of answers, I found unsettling questions. And instead of Allah, I found Jesus. This is my story, the story of a 50-year-old Muslim woman from America who came back from Mecca with a dangerous secret that almost cost me my life. I lost my family. I was hunted by people I once called my own, but I gained something far more precious: salvation in Christ. It is a story laced with mystery, fear, divine encounters, and a twist you may not see coming. So please, don't stop halfway through. Listen all the way, and share where you're watching from in the comments. You might not realize it, but it means a great deal to us. I learned to recite the Quran before I could even write my name. My father made sure the call to prayer ruled our schedule. Even in sickness, even in weariness, we prayed. My mother's lessons were just as firm: how to dress, so no part of me would draw attention, how to keep my voice low, how to be obedient and modest. We never allowed Western TV in the house. Restaurants that weren't halal were off limits. Conversations with non-Muslims happened only if absolutely necessary, and even then they were short and guarded. By the time I was 23, I believed without question that Islam was the one and only truth. That same year, I married a Muslim man. We had 4 children together. He was not violent, but he was unbending, strict to the core. In our home, there was no music, no relaxed laughter, no personal freedom. The walls echoed only with Quran recitations, with quiet discipline, with the sound of duty. I tried to be the perfect Muslim wife and mother. I wore the hijab without fail, and eventually the niqab. I fasted on extra days beyond Ramadan. I studied hadiths late into the night. I listened to religious lectures until my ears ached, and yet a deep emptiness gnawed at me. I never dared to speak of it. Not to my husband, not to my friends, not even to myself in the privacy of my thoughts. I told myself I must be flawed, unworthy, maybe not committed enough. I redoubled my efforts, isolating myself further, cutting off even distant friends who weren't devout enough. I smiled in public, but my heart felt like dry sand. In early 2024, my husband surprised me with a gift: a trip to Saudi Arabia for Umrah. Tears filled my eyes the moment he told me. This was supposed to be the high point of my life, the journey that would finally bring my soul the closeness to Allah I had longed for. I was certain that if there was anywhere my faith could be healed, it was Mecca. But from the moment we landed, I felt something I could not name. Not the weight of God's presence, but something heavier, darker. I told myself I was just jet-lagged, just overwhelmed. Yet, when I saw the Kaaba for the first time, the black cube encircled by waves of people chanting and reaching, my breath caught, not with awe but with panic. My heart pounded against my ribs. I forced myself to join the rituals, but my prayers felt like empty words. On the third night, the turning point came. I dreamed I was standing in a vast, silent desert. No movement, no wind. In the distance, the Kaaba appeared. Then it began to tremble, cracks split across its surface, and suddenly fire erupted, devouring the black cloth until it was nothing but ash. My voice broke as I screamed, powerless to stop it. Then came a voice, deep, steady, and filled with both power and tenderness. "Bella, why are you walking in darkness?" I turned, and there he was, a man clothed in brilliant white, radiant light pouring from him. His face was kind, yet his gaze pierced through every hidden thought I had ever tried to bury. "Come to me," he said softly, "and I will give you rest." I woke up with a start, gasping, my body drenched in sweat. My husband stirred beside me. "What happened?" he asked, concern in his voice. I shook my head. "Just a dream," I murmured. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just a dream. The next day, I lingered outside the Grand Mosque. I couldn't bring myself to step inside. As I sat on a bench, lost in thought, a woman in a black abaya sat quietly beside me. After a moment, she spoke in a low, almost knowing voice. "You've seen him, haven't you?" I turned to her sharply. "Seen who?" "The man in white," she said, without hesitation. "He spoke to you." My throat tightened. "How would you know that?" She leaned closer. "Because he sets calling you. His name is Isa." "You mean Prophet Isa," I whispered. She shook her head slowly. "No, more than a prophet. He is the Son of God, the light of the world." I could barely breathe. I stood abruptly and walked away, but her words followed me, echoing in my chest. When we returned to the United States, my old routines felt hollow. My prayers were empty. The Quran no longer stirred anything in me. Quietly, I began seeking out testimonies online, stories from Muslims who had dreamed of Jesus. Again and again, their descriptions matched mine. One night, I downloaded a Bible app and began to read. My eyes fell on a verse. "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Matthew 11:28. The tears came without warning. That was exactly what he had said to me in the dream. I fell to my knees and whispered, "Jesus, if that was you, I want to know you. Please show me the truth." That night, I had another dream. The same man appeared. He walked toward me and simply said, "You are mine." The next morning, I knew. I couldn't deny it anymore. I believed. I gave my heart to Jesus. But when I told my husband, all hell broke loose. His voice exploded in anger. He called me a traitor, an infidel, someone who had disgraced our family. His hand struck my cheek, and his words cut deeper than the blow. My children stood frozen, not understanding what was happening. My relatives were furious. One of my cousins from Chicago called and hissed into the phone, "You know the punishment. Don't think we'll just forget this." The next day, someone spray painted the word apostate across my front door in bold red letters. I lost my marriage. I lost my children. I lost the community I had known all my life. But in that loss, I found Jesus, and for the first time ever, I found peace. And this was only the beginning. In the next few minutes, I will tell you how I survived a deadly attack, how God spoke to me in the darkest night of my life, and how my story is now leading others to Christ. When I surrendered my life to Jesus, I thought everything would change for the better. I thought peace, love, and acceptance would finally be mine. And in a spiritual way, they were. But in the physical world, I had stepped into a fire I could never have imagined. Within days of telling my husband that I was now a Christian, he packed his bags and left. He told our children that their mother had become a servant of the devil and warned them to stay away from me. My 2 older sons blocked my number. My youngest daughter, Isla, only wept. Her voice trembled when she asked, "Mom, why would you leave Islam? Did we do something wrong?" I tried to explain. I told her about my dream, about Jesus, about the deep peace in my heart. But she couldn't grasp it. She had been raised the same way I had, and in her eyes, I had betrayed everything we knew. Not long after, my brother flew in from Chicago. He didn't come for a family reunion. He came to confront me. He stood in my kitchen, his eyes blazing. "Do you understand what the punishment is for this?" he demanded. "You're lucky we're in America. Back home, you'd already be gone." I kept my voice calm. "I done nothing wrong."
"You lost your mind," he shot back.
"You think a man can be God?"
"You fallen for lies from the West."
"No," I said quietly. "I not deceived. For the first time in my life, I can truly see." My words only fueled his rage. He stormed out, slamming the door. 2 hours later, a rock shattered my front window. Tied to it was a note, "Repent and return to Islam or die." I called the police. They took a report, but told me without evidence there wasn't much they could do. Their advice was to move or stay with someone else, but I had nowhere to go. My husband had drained our bank account. My children refused to speak to me. My extended family cut me off completely. Friends I had known for years blocked my calls. My home no longer felt safe. I was alone, but not abandoned. Jesus was with me. One cold night, I knelt in the middle of my living room, surrounded by shards of broken glass, and prayed, "Lord, I don't know what to do. I have no one left. Please help me." That night, I dreamed again. In the dream, I stood in the middle of a violent storm. Rain lashed against my skin. Thunder roared so loud it shook the ground. The wind shoved me back, making it impossible to move forward. Through the darkness, I saw him, Jesus, walking toward me. His white robe was untouched by the rain. He reached out his hand. I took it. Instantly, the storm ceased. The wind died. The rain stopped. The clouds broke apart. He looked into my eyes and said, "Do not be afraid, Bella. I am with you." I woke with tears running down my face. I knew he was real. I knew I wasn't alone, but I still had to survive. The next few weeks were the most difficult of my life. I had no job, no income, and no plan. I lived off the small amount of savings I had left. I spent hours watching sermons online and searching for testimonies from other former Muslims. Their stories became my lifeline. Still, fear lingered. Every knock at the door made my heart pound. Every car that slowed near my home made me wonder if someone was watching. One evening, around 9 p.m., there was a knock. It was soft, almost hesitant. Harry peeked through the curtain. It was my cousin James. We had played together as children. He had always been reserved, polite, even gentle. But something in his eyes was different this time, colder. I didn't open the door. He knocked again. "Bella," he called. "It's me. I just want to talk." I slid the chain lock in place and cracked the door slightly. He smiled faintly. "I heard what happened. I just want to help you," he said. But his tone didn't match his words. "No, thank you," I replied firmly. "I'm fine." "Please," he insisted. "Let me in. We're family." That's when something inside me, a whisper I knew was from God, warned me, "Do not open the door." Without another word, I closed it and turned the deadbolt. 10 minutes later, I peeked outside. James was gone. But the next morning, there was a knife lying on my doorstep. I called the police again. They promised to increase patrols in my neighborhood, but I knew what was happening. This was intimidation. They wanted me to feel trapped. But I refused to be silenced. I began searching for a church, not just online, but somewhere I could go in person. A place where I could meet other believers face to face. Eventually, I found one about 45 minutes away that welcomed people from Muslim backgrounds. One weekday morning, I drove there. They were in the middle of a small Bible study when I walked in. All eyes turned toward me. I still wore my long coat and scarf. My hands trembled. An older woman stood up, came to me, and said softly, "You're safe here." She guided me to a seat. They were reading from the Gospel of John. When someone read aloud, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God," tears filled my eyes. The woman next to me placed her hand gently over mine. After the study, I told them my story. They didn't judge me. They listened. They prayed. They cried with me. For the first time in a long time, I felt the warmth of family. A few days later, the pastor and his wife visited my home. He brought groceries. She gave me her number and told me to call at any hour. They became the parents I had never truly had. Through that church, I found work at a Christian-owned bakery. It didn't pay much, but it was honest work, and it gave me purpose. I arrived early each morning, cleaned, served customers, and greeted them with a smile. For the first time in months, I felt alive again. But the threats didn't stop. One night, after closing the bakery, I noticed a car trailing me. My pulse quickened. I took several turns, doubled back, and tried to lose them, but the car stayed behind me. I finally pulled into a gas station and called the police. TC. They never caught the car, but deep inside, I knew it was someone from my past. Someone who still carried the same bitterness and anger. Someone who wanted to silence me. But they couldn't. Not anymore. Jesus was now my shield and my protector. And not only that, he began to take my story, the very one meant to break me, and use it for his glory. One afternoon, a young woman came quietly into the bakery. She glanced around nervously, then leaned in and whispered, "Are you Bella?" I hesitated for a moment, then nodded. She said softly, "I watched your testimony online. I'm Muslim, and lately, I've been having strange dreams too. I think Jesus is calling me." Tears welled up in my eyes. That evening, after we closed, we sat in my car under the dim street light. I told her everything, the dreams, the threats, the peace I had found. We prayed together right there in the parking lot. That night, she surrendered her life to Jesus. That was the moment I realized my pain wasn't wasted. God was already turning my ashes into beauty. The enemy had tried to destroy me, but Jesus was making my suffering a testimony. By then, I had started living a new life, working at the bakery, going to church, and slowly building something out of the wreckage of all I had lost. But the past still had sharp claws. The threats hadn't completely stopped. They just became quieter, more calculated. I no longer answered unknown calls. I stayed alert every time I stepped outside. I changed the locks on my doors. I avoided walking alone after dark. But inside, something had shifted. I was no longer driven by fear. I had found peace, not the fragile kind that disappears when trouble comes, but the kind that makes no sense to the world. The peace that remains, even while storms rage on. The peace that held me on nights when tears were my only company. That peace was Jesus himself. Still, there was one deep wound that hadn't healed: my children. Months had gone by without a single phone call from them. into, I sent simple text messages. I love you or I'm praying for you. Most of the time, there was no reply. Occasionally, the only word they sent back was stop. That cut deeper than anything else. One day, I decided to do something bold. I drove to the house where my ex-husband and the kids were living. I parked across the street and sat there for over an hour, just watching. I saw my daughter come out to take the trash. I saw my sons pass by the windows. They looked older, taller, and so far away from me in every possible sense. Finally, I found the courage to walk up and knock. My heart pounded so loudly it almost drowned out the sound of the door opening. It was my oldest son, Adil. He froze when his eyes met mine. "Mom," he said quietly, "I don't want an argument," I told him gently. "I just want to see you, all of you, for a few minutes." He hesitated, then slowly opened the door wider. When I stepped inside, all 4 of my children were in the living room. My ex-husband wasn't home. Their eyes were fixed on me, studying me like I was a stranger. I took a deep breath. "I know you don't understand why I left Islam. I know you feel hurt, maybe even betrayed, but I want you to hear me, not in anger, but as your mother, the woman who carried you, fed you, raised you, and loved you." My voice trembled as I spoke. "I didn't leave Islam to wound you. I left because the truth came to me. I didn't ask for the dreams or the visions, but when Jesus found me, I couldn't deny him. He gave me a peace I had never known in 50 years of Islam." There was a long silence before my second son, Khaled, finally spoke. "Do you really believe he's God?" "With every fiber of my being," I replied. He frowned.
A man who died on a cross.
"That doesn't make sense." "It didn't make sense to me at first either," I admitted. "But it's not just about logic, it's about love. He gave his life for me, for you, for all of us." I noticed my daughter's eyes glistening with unshed tears. She didn't say a word, but I could sense something softening in her heart. I handed each of them a Bible. "I'm not here to pressure you. Just one day, even if it's only one page, read it, and ask God to show you the truth." I left soon after and cried the entire drive home. I didn't know what would happen next, but I knew I had done what God asked, to speak truth in love. 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed with a message from my daughter. "Mom, I started reading the book of Matthew." It was only one sentence, but it filled me with hope. Months later, something happened that I still struggle to fully put into words. I was lying in bed one quiet evening, whispering prayers. Nothing felt unusual. Then, without warning, my room filled with a bright, white light. It wasn't harsh or blinding, it was warm, strong, and alive. At the foot of my bed stood a figure I instantly recognized. It was him. Jesus didn't speak out loud, yet his voice echoed deep inside me. "I will never leave you. What was taken from you, I will restore. What was meant for evil, I will turn into good." Tears streamed down my face as I reached out my hand toward him. The light faded gently, and the room was still again, but my chest burned with a holy fire. It wasn't pain, it was life, love, power. I knew he had come to remind me that he was still writing my story. Not long after, my church asked if I would share my testimony on video. At first, I was hesitant. I didn't want to stir more trouble. But then God whispered to my heart, "This story isn't just for you, it's for others who need to hear it." So I agreed. I sat before a camera and told everything, the dreams, the threats, the nights of fear, and the unshakable peace I found in Christ. That video went around the world. Thousands watched it. Some people sent angry messages, some mocked me, others called me a liar. But many wrote to say, "I had the same dream," or "I've been afraid to leave Islam, but your story gave me courage." Some even told me, "I gave my life to Jesus after watching your testimony." God was taking what had been meant to destroy me and turning it into a lifeline for others. Now, 2 years later, I'm still walking with Jesus. Some of my family still won't speak to me. I still receive threats. I still live cautiously. But I have no fear, because the one who is with me is greater than anything this world can throw at me. He saved me. He kept me. He loved me when no one else would. And if you're hearing this right now and you're a Muslim who feels that deep emptiness I once carried, I want you to know there is a way out. There is truth greater than what you've been told. There is a Savior who loves you not for what you do, but for who He is. His name is Jesus. Call out to Him, even if it's only a whisper, and He will answer. Thank you for listening to my story. Please comment below where you're watching from. I would love to pray for you.